In this first episode of the show, I'm going to be talking a little bit about my background and who I am and the businesses that I built, successes and failures. The reason I'm doing this is so that you'll have a starting point to understand why you should be listening to me, why you should be trusting me, who I am and who this person is that you don't know is. And my goal in this show will be basically trying to figure out every possible way of making money online, talking with successful people, and figuring out why they're successful and how you can apply that yourself, and of course for myself. But in this first session, it's all about me. So I'll tell you a little bit about myself, and then we'll get into my businesses. So obviously, my name is Barak Holman, and I grew up in Miami Beach, North Miami Beach, Florida. Actually, I was born in Miami Beach and grew up in South Florida. I worked for my father in his eyeglass store. One of my earliest memories as a kid was my father shoving me to the front of the store and saying, "Sell some glasses." And of course, I had no idea what to do. And I turned back to my father and I said, "What am I supposed to do?" He says, "Go over to that lady over there and say, 'Hi, ma'am, how may I help you today?'" I went over to her and say, "Hi, how can I help you today?" And he comes running over to me and he says, No, that's not what I told you." I said, "Hi, ma'am, how may I help you today?" Not how can I help you today. And that was the beginning of my business education. I grew up in my father's store, and he's really been my business mentor for all these years. He's still my business mentor, and he taught me many, many things about making money, but he knows nothing about making money online. I was a terrible student in school, and it was the Boy Scouts that really saved my life. I became an Eagle Scout, and I didn't grow up very religious. We went to synagogue. I'm obviously Jewish, but when I was 18 years old, I met the Lubavitcher Rebbe. And I'm sure that in future podcasts, I'll talk more about the Rebbe and his impact on my life. But meeting this very special rabbi changed my entire life and gave it a whole new meaning. I started off, actually, I was a terrible student in school, and I practically failed high school. But after a year in community college, I was able to transfer to Rutgers College in New Brunswick. It's kind of funny. I thought at the time that it was an Ivy League school. I should have known better that it was actually a state college. Being smart enough to get in there, I should have known that. But it was a very fine education, and actually Rutgers was initially going to be part of the Ivy League, and it ended up becoming the State University of New Jersey. I studied Arabic and Islamic studies there. As I mentioned before, I'm Jewish and I'm not a Muslim, but I found the religion and the culture fascinating, and I continued from Rutgers. I spent a year at the University of Edinburgh in Scotland. I'm sure that I'll talk about all these things in future podcasts, but just so you have an idea of who I am and what I've done. And from Edinburgh, I went back to Rutgers. I graduated, and then I spent a year on kibbutz in Israel in the north in Beit She'an. I basically cleaned up turkey poo and took care of turkeys for 6 months. And then another 6 months, I worked in the dining hall, washing dishes and serving food, which was kind of funny because for the first 6 months I raised the turkeys, and then for the second 6 months I threw them away when nobody ate them. It's one of the reasons that I'm a vegetarian today. And after a year on kibbutz, my dream was always to study at Princeton, and I was very fortunate to get into Princeton for a master's program. My plan was to continue on to get a PhD in Arabic and Islamic studies, but life takes you in a funny direction sometimes. And after my first year, I ended up transferring to the Hebrew University of Jerusalem because my professors at Princeton said to me, "Listen, we can't send everybody to Jerusalem, but you're Jewish and you speak Hebrew, and if you really want to study Arabic and you're really serious about this, that's the place to be. So we're sending you to the Hebrew University." And it was at the Hebrew University that I met my wife, Noga. I married her, and we've been married now for 17 years, thank God. And we've had 7 children over that time. My oldest right now is 12 years old, and my youngest is about to turn a year old in about 10 days. It's a real circus in my home, but we have very sweet kids, and we're very blessed to have these children. I'm sure they'll be talking about my wife and children also in future podcasts. I'm also the Bal Tefillah at the Mayanot Shul in Jerusalem. The Bal Tefillah is a term for somebody who leads the prayer service. Being an Orthodox Jew, a term that I really don't like to use, Orthodox sounds kind of funny. But whatever, it's an easy way to understand what I am. I live a life of Torah, following the Torah and the commandments in the Torah. And so I lead a prayer group, I guess you could call it. We call it a minyan in Hebrew. And when I lead the services on Shabbos, you're not allowed to use electricity. You're allowed to have electricity so we can turn the lights on before Shabbos, before the Jewish Sabbath. But leading the service, I'm not allowed to have a microphone, and we don't use musical instruments. So you need to have a very loud voice, especially in the synagogue, which we call it a shul, that I daven at, and daven means to pray. You'll see that I use words like this, and so I'll translate them for you. So the shul that I daven at, we don't have a microphone, and I need to be able to project. It's anyhow, I don't want to get too much into that, but it's a very special thing, and if you're ever in Jerusalem, please make sure to contact me and come by the shul. I'm also, I wrote here that I'm a chef, but really it's kind of an amateur thing. I just like to cook a lot, which is not a normal thing for most men, especially internet marketers. But I just wanted to show you that I am a little bit well-rounded. Also, one of my hobbies is ceramics. I like to go to the studio once or twice a month, if I can get there more often. Usually I'm working quite a bit. Back in 2003, I believe it was, I took the Dale Carnegie Sales Advantage training course. And there were about 40 people in the course, and amongst them, I was the top salesperson. It's kind of embarrassing to say all these things about myself, but my grandmother, God bless her, she's 96 years old, she likes to say, if you don't toot your own horn, nobody's going to do it for you. So I'm going to get it all out in this first episode, and then hopefully I won't have to talk too much about it in the future. Hasidic stories. I'm also a storyteller. I tell a story every Shabbos in my shul, and I have a YouTube channel where I tell Hasidic stories. I'll just show you that briefly. If you let's get back over here. If you go over here to youtube.com/Hasidic stories, you see that's me over there, and I've got a bunch of stories up here. So if you don't get enough of me from talking about making money online, you can come watch me tell some stories. All right, so back to the slideshow here. All right, so from when I was working at the Hebrew University, I'm going to explain to you how I got into the whole internet thing and how I got to where I am right now. One of the reasons that I came to the Hebrew University from Princeton was that I had a full scholarship. I was given an amazing stipend, and I was made the editor of the academic journal at the Hebrew University, Jerusalem Studies in Arabic and Islam. My job was to edit the journal, and we had a programmer that did programming in this program called LaTeX, or that's what they called it in Hebrew, LaTeX, probably in English. And it wasn't anything super sophisticated, but we had multiple languages that we would use at the journal: Arabic, Persian, Turkish, and all kinds of special things. And it was published also originally in English. And this programmer, as the managing editor, I had to write a check for him once, and he made about 10 times what I made as the editor. So I realized, okay, if I want to make money, I got to learn this guy's job. And this job was way beneath him. He wasn't interested in it anyhow. So I said to him, can you tell me what do I need to know to learn this job? He showed me the books. I sat there and I learned the programming myself. And then when the day came that the guy quit, there was like this big panic at the journal. What are we going to do? And I said, don't worry, you've got a programmer. And they said, who? And I said, me. And I proved to them that they could do the programming. And they said to me, listen, you've got a choice. You can either be the editor or you can be the programmer. And I picked being the programmer. And that's how I started getting into programming. As a result of starting that work at the Hebrew University, all the professors in the department knew me because they submitted their articles there. And also one of the things that I learned over the years at university was if you want good grades, take the professors out for meals and get to know them personally. I actually had a couple of professors at my wedding when I got married, and they told me it was the first time they were invited to a wedding by a student. So as a result of getting to know these professors, they started sending me more and more work, similar work to what I was doing as the programmer at the journal. And this led to me eventually working in the programming language Delphi, which I never really got. But I did briefly work at this job. It was at a special archive of ancient Arabic poetry at the Hebrew University. It's a period of a period of Arab history before Islam called the Jahiliyyah, and that's when it means ignorant. It means people that were ignorant of Islam. And the Hebrew University has this huge collection, and they needed somebody to do some programming. They needed somebody that knew Arabic and somebody that they could trust and somebody who knew English, and I was very fortunate to get that job. Then I realized, okay, I've got to get out of being stuck here at the Hebrew University. I had originally planned on getting my PhD, but the Hebrew University has extremely high standards, especially in the field of Arabic and Islamic studies. And after almost 5 years of studying at the Hebrew University, I had it. I was burnt out, and I just wanted to make some money. We already had a child, and life was getting a little stressful. So I opened up the newspaper and made a survey of the types of jobs that were available. This was, I think, in 1998. And I saw everybody's looking for people that know C++. I wrote here C++, but it was really C++. And I taught myself the programming language. I went for a bunch of interviews. And eventually I got a job at this company called Versaware here in Jerusalem. And the programming was actually in Visual Basic. Versaware, this was in 1998, was a precursor for the Kindle. And it was a very exciting time, but they were really before their time. And they had over 200 employees. I remember they had something like $100 million that they had raised. And there were always these talks about Amazon buying us out and about Barnes & Noble buying us out. But nobody bought us out, and I was laid off. And you can see that I wrote here idea before its time and laid off after a year and a half. After a year and a half, I started looking for other high-tech jobs, and I didn't realize actually how good a job I had working at Versaware until I started looking for other jobs. I remember I went for this one job, and besides them telling me that I'm not as good a programmer as I thought I was, the guy said, all right, you got the job. I had to go through all these crazy tests, and he said, you got the job, but go tell your wife that we own you now. You're basically going to live here. You're going to be working from 8 in the morning to 10 o'clock at night. You're never going to see your family. You're never going to see your wife. We own you. And I thought, this is crazy. Forget it. I've got to figure out something that I can do on my own. So by that time, my Hebrew was very good. And I also knew how to bake challahs, which is a traditional bread made for the Jewish Sabbath. So I decided I'm going to start teaching people spoken Hebrew and challah baking. And I actually made my living doing that for 2.5 years, just teaching private lessons. I'm going back up here. Teaching private lessons and teaching people how to bake. It got to the point that after 2 years of teaching the baking, I think I actually continued that for another 3 years or something like that. I decided that I'd had enough. I was tired of teaching people how to bake bread. And people, for years after that, still kept knocking on my door saying, do you still teach how to bake challah? We want to learn how to bake challah. It's actually one of my future plans is to make a video for YouTube, because I still make the bread every week. Make a few breads, actually. Anyhow, it was a little bit before then. I'm guessing around 1997, 1998, that my mother's husband, not my father, her second husband, recommended that I start selling something on eBay. He said, look, you're in Jerusalem. There must be unique Middle Eastern products that you can sell on eBay. Why don't you give it a try? I wrote here that I started in 1999. Now, some of the dates I'm not exactly sure when I go too far back. But what I did is I took $100 and I went to Meir Sharim. Meir Sharim is a Haredi neighborhood in Jerusalem. Let's see if I've got an image that'll come up easily here. Here we've got some pictures of Meir Sharim. You can see they like to call it ultra-religious. But there's no such thing as ultra-religious. Anyhow, I went there and I took $100. I wanted to see what I could buy. I bought a bunch of prints. I ended up starting with this artist, David Yochanan. And miraculously, I put up, I think, 5 products from that $100 on eBay. And this one print sold right away. I think there was even a bidding war on the print. And so that led to me eventually, by a small miracle, finding the business card of the artist by mistake taped to the back of one of the prints in one of the stores that I bought it in. And so I started buying it wholesale from him. And then I expanded into another artist who makes vitrage, is what it's called, which is stained glass artwork. And then from him, I started selling jewelry. I went to one of the local fairs here. It's called Chutzot Yotzer, which is kind of an artist fair that happens every summer in Jerusalem. And there was this Yemenite artist who made this beautiful stuff. I started buying jewelry from her and selling the stuff on eBay. A little story about that maybe I'll get into in another time. I was buying this artwork from her, and it turns out, well, never mind. We'll talk about that another time. It's a whole story. It turns out that she was cheating me. That was the bottom line. That she was going to the wholesaler who's right next to my office. It's about a 5-minute walk from my office. And she was coming and saying that she made the stuff herself. And when things weren't around, she would say, well, there was a problem with the production and we'll be producing more. And she would come up with all these stupid stories. It was a whole fiasco. Anyhow, I'm sure that I'll talk about that in the future. So from selling individual auctions, I went on to starting an eBay store. And then from the eBay store, that led into JerusalemEverything.com, which is my current Judaica store. I'm going to bring it up over here so you can see what it looks like. This is Jerusalem Everything. I don't know how much you're going to see in the video here, but I sell inexpensive Jewish art and Judaica from Jerusalem. One of the things about it is that it's local art. It's made by local artists. Most of the stuff is handmade, and I'm here in Jerusalem, and I ship it from Jerusalem. This is one of the principles of making money online, is filling a demand that can't be filled on its own, right? So if you're selling Coca-Cola, that's not a big deal. You can buy Coca-Cola or Pepsi or any of these types of drinks everywhere. But if you're selling Coca-Cola with Hebrew letters on it that was made in Israel and you're selling it in America, that already makes it unique. And there are people that are interested in collecting these things or that want something special. And so that's one of the main reasons that Jerusalem Everything is successful, because I put together a group of artists that aren't online anywhere else, and I'm selling to a Jewish audience that wants to buy products from Israel. This is something that I started in 2000, and this was after my daughter Alma was born. She's now 12 and a half. And one of the big reasons that I started the website was because these eBay fees were just getting higher and higher. And I figured, okay, this is a time for me to build my own site. I did all the graphic design. I did all the PHP programming myself. I'm into learning things myself, but these days I'm more into outsourcing. And of all the businesses I have, I don't really sell anything on eBay anymore. Around Hanukkah time, I'll still sell some Hanukkah related products. That's around Christmas time, for anybody who doesn't know Hanukkah. And it's a business still running today, and it's been a very good business to me, I have to say. Back in probably 2003, maybe 2002, there was the second Intifada over here, and tourists were scared to come to Jerusalem. So somebody came up with this idea. Hang on a second, I'm going to turn the air conditioner off here. There we go. It's already 7 o'clock at night, and it's starting to get cooler in Jerusalem. So somebody had this idea of bringing artists from Israel to New York and Miami and Los Angeles, all these big cities with large Jewish communities, and creating a fair where people would come and support the local artists. So I jumped on the bandwagon, and the first fair that I ended up at was where I grew up in North Miami Beach. And it was unbelievable. I wrote here that I sold $50,000 in the first fair. It was at least $50,000. I had my family there. I had my wife there. I had my brother and my parents there. And we were literally taking the money hand over fist. We could not keep up with the demand. And so this became a side business for me, that I was traveling to fairs. I would sometimes spend a week or two in America. But it started really wearing me down. And I would come back and I wasn't able to be productive. Eventually I decided just to focus on my online businesses and stop traveling and stop trying to do all of this offline stuff. Around 1999-2000, I was very fortunate to get some contracted work for Bar-Ilan University for the website lookstein.org. And I was basically hired to do all of the web programming, PHP. We were still using Perl back then, and graphic design, Flash, database management, networking, anything that they needed. Basically what I did is I told them I could do it, even though I couldn't do it. I didn't really know programming that well. PHP programming, I didn't know it at all when I took that job, but I told them that I did, and I would buy books from Amazon. I still have some books here in my office. I'm looking around seeing them. They're mainly used to prop up the screens on my computer. But I would buy these books from Amazon. I would have them sent 2 or 3 day mail as fast as possible to Jerusalem. And I would sit there sometimes for 24 hours just going through the book, following all the exercises. I would learn the programming. And this was an extremely lucrative job. It paid me $70,000 a year, over $70,000 a year. It's a job that I had for 12 years, and I'm actually still doing a little bit of work for them. The university doesn't have the budget that they used to. You know, the whole global economic crisis has affected me as well. But one of the nice things about it is that I never had to go into the university to do the job. It was a contracted job. I could do it from my office in Jerusalem. And that was after I read The 4-Hour Workweek. If you don't know the book, please buy The 4-Hour Workweek. I'm a huge fan of Tim Ferriss. And I have to say, this book literally changed my life. I would spend hours and hours and hours doing all of the work myself. I would kill myself with the programming. And then when I read this book, I realized, what am I, stupid? I could be hiring people in India to do the same work that I'm doing. It's just code. As long as the code works, I understand how it works, I can supervise it easily, and that totally changed my life. To this day, I do as little programming as possible, and I outsource like a madman. I'm sure that in the future I'm going to have some episodes specifically on outsourcing. I'll share with you my outsourcing tips because I'm a very, very good outsourcer. What I mean by that is that I'm able to hire people that do an excellent job, pay them very little money, and they're super happy to have a little bit of money. And I have methods for describing to them how to do the work, and almost always comes back perfect. Ways of supervising it, ways of working with them. Anyhow, this is all a result of me working for the Lookstein Center and reading the 4-Hour Workweek. All right, moving on. So this was one of my earlier businesses, ABC Lance, and it was based on Scriptlance. Scriptlance, unfortunately, was sold to Freelancer.com. And sorry, I'm just going to drink a little bit of water here. It was my favorite outsourcing site. And they sold their script. They sold the actual programming script that they used to run the entire site for $125. I remember back in the early days, I'm not sure when this was, maybe 2004 or something like that. By the way, I had done some outsourcing before the 4-hour work week, but it was the 4-hour work week that convinced me I should be outsourcing almost everything. And so I decided to take the script and buy a template and build for myself my own freelance site. And it took me, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 months to put it all together. Like I said, I bought the script for almost nothing, and then I built this template. But it was a total disaster. This was definitely my worst business I ever built. I've had lots of problems with all kinds of businesses, but this was a total nightmare. First of all, I had these guys in Nigeria that were laundering money through the site. So they would pay each other. They would set up a project. They would pay each other. I remember I would get like $10,000 or $20,000 in my PayPal account, or I was using check. What is it called? I don't remember what it's called. Checkout, something like that. And I'd get these huge sums of money that would be deposited in the account, and then they would try to withdraw the money, and PayPal would freeze it because they would say it was a fraudulent transaction. And then back then, people didn't know the name Barack, and this, of course, everybody knows it now because of the President of the United States. But back then, the name, I would call companies, and they would say Mark, Bark, Park. They never knew what Barack was. So I decided that I was going to use the online name John. I figured, I'm writing to everybody. Nobody's seeing me. Nobody's talking with me. And even if we ever did speak on the phone. So I'd say my name is John. And telemarketers do it all the time. For some strange reason, there was this guy who joined the site, and he decided to investigate me. And he said, there's no John. And he looked up my address, and he looked up the whois for the domain name. And he started posting all this stuff, how I'm a fraud and how the site is a fraud. And it just turned into such a nightmare that I took the whole thing down. So that was my first big failure. It was around that time that I started getting into affiliate marketing. It was about 2003. And I was at a party, basically. I was at a Brit Milah, or a bris, where a circumcision for a Jewish baby. And a bunch of friends came over to me and they said, listen, have you heard of this thing called affiliate marketing or affiliate advertising? And I had no idea what they were talking about. People approach me all the time with business stuff, you should know. Basically, people stop me on the street here in Jerusalem because I've become kind of a local celebrity when it comes to internet marketing and making money online. Lots of rabbis contact me and ask me how to market themselves. Businesses contact me. It's pretty crazy. So anyhow, people came over to me and they said, have you heard of this thing called affiliate advertising? And I said, no, I'm not interested. And they said, no, you don't know what it is. And of course, probably most of you know what it is by now. But basically, you promote other people's products using an affiliate link and you get paid a commission for a sale. So there was this thing called Google Cash. And it was really mind-blowing at the time. You would create AdWords ads on Google AdWords, and you would just create an ad and link directly to the affiliate sale. So you wouldn't even need to build a website. You're not allowed to do that now. It's something that they made illegal, or violates their terms of services. Of course, it's not illegal. It's just violating their terms of service. But for many years, I was making a lot of money. I mean, I was making well over $100,000 a year doing this Google Cash method. I started with web hosting. I remember at 1 month, I was making over $15,000 for the month, and I actually took a vacation to the Carmel Forest Spa, a place that I started going to regularly. I even became one of the members of their inner club or their elite club or something like that, because I was going to the spa once a month. My poor wife, it was very nice of her to let me have this break. And I remember being at the spa, and I would check my email, and every day I was making something like $700, sometimes $1,000. And there I was at the spa, and like with one day, it would pay for my entire 3 or 4 days at the spa. It was pretty incredible. The best month that I had was in 2006, where I made over $60,000 from affiliate marketing in 1 month. Now, this was a gradual thing. So first I was making $7,000, then I was making $12,000, and then $15,000. And it just kept building up till I reached that $60,000. And basically what happened was the companies that I was promoting, they wanted to know exactly where I was promoting, how I was getting this traffic, and they started creating obstacles. Sometimes they just wouldn't pay me. Many times they would track what I was doing, and then they would stop paying me and start doing the same exact things themselves. They would say things like, you're not allowed to use this keyword, you're not allowed to use our brand name, things that are common practice now for companies to say that you're not allowed to do. But back then, it was totally open. You were allowed to advertise anything you wanted. Probably around that time, from 2003 2007, I created over 2,000 campaigns. I still have the campaigns on my computer, so I know that it is over 2,000 campaigns, because I kept trying to build this into a sustainable business. One of the reasons that it ended is because Google also banned this Google Cache idea. You weren't allowed to directly link to the product. So then I started making landing pages, and it did work for a while, but it just became such a nightmare that I decided to drop it. And it was around that time that I came up with the idea for a startup called CFind.It. Some people, when they would write to me, they would think it's CFind.IT, but it was CFind.It. And the idea was to make a visual shopping cart. It's actually something that exists now. It's at like.com. But at the time, I didn't... at the time, I was the first person to come up with the idea. It's a whole story that I'm sure I'll get into in the future. I don't want this to be too long, so I won't speak about it too much. I started raising money in 2006, and around 2007, my partner and I had $1 million investment in the startup, which was pretty amazing. It fell through, unfortunately, because there was another company that at the time was called Ria, I think. I'm not exactly sure, but I know that eventually they became like.com, and it was sold to Google for $100 million. It was also a visual search engine, a shopping search engine. Basically, the idea was you have a shirt that you like, and you want to find similar shirts to it. You can find cheaper shirts that look almost identical, or you could replace a shirt that you really liked and doesn't fit you anymore, or it's torn, or whatever it was. And then all of the links in the search engine would be affiliate links to products that were already online. And that's exactly what like.com did. I was watching their company blog as they took this visual search technology that they didn't really know what to do with, and eventually they figured out my exact idea. My investors came to me and they said, look, these guys have raised $20 million and they're in California. You've got $1 million and you're in Jerusalem. We want the $1 million, and the company fell apart. I never actually got the money. Like, we were in the process of signing all the agreements, and didn't work out. What are you going to do? As they say in Arabic, Heka dunya. Such is life. Then I started working on Income Israel. So this was after watching The Secret around 2007. My brother-in-law said, you got to watch this movie. You got to watch this movie. So I watched The Secret, and yeah, it was inspiring. It's actually nothing more than inspiring, but I'm a type of person that takes action. And I decided I'm going to put together a course on how to make money online, and I'm going to teach it here in Jerusalem. And this was also one of my business successes, I have to say. I stopped teaching it last year. That was in 2012. I'm pretty sure that I taught it 6 or 7 times. And the reason that I stopped teaching it is because people made me crazy. That's the reason. That's the reason that I stopped teaching Hebrew, because people made me crazy, and that's the reason that I stopped teaching this course. So it was an 8-week course. It was approximately 25 to 30 hours long, and I would stand in front of a group of people. The smallest class I ever had, I think, was 7 or 8 people, and the largest was a little over 20. Everybody paid $1,000 a piece. Over here in Israel, everything's in installments, so I allowed people to pay in 12 installments, interest-free, which was actually great because it was recurring income for me, and it was a real pleasure getting those monthly payments, I have to say. And then in 2009, I had some guy come to I would give a free intro class. I've actually recorded the free intro class, and I'm going to be putting it up online for my listeners. It's The Science of Getting Rich, where I took the entire book of The Science of Getting Rich and explained the concepts behind it from a Jewish point of view, using Jewish examples. So in 2009, this guy came to my free class and he said, listen, I love your course, but I don't want to pay for it. I'm a professional videographer. I'll film you, and you can make DVDs from the course. And that was a great thing. And from these DVDs, I've actually sold hundreds of these DVDs. I sell them on Amazon. I sell them directly online. And I have particularly the eBay DVD, which does very well. I have to say, I'm just going to be totally honest with you, in all of my broadcasts and all of the podcasts and all of the shows that I do, and this is something that you're probably going to figure out on your own, the best way to make money is to tell people how to make money, which is why I'm doing the Make Money Online show. This is something that I really enjoy anyhow, a topic that I really enjoy. But as much money as I've made on eBay, I probably made much more on eBay than I have selling the DVDs. But I sell these DVDs. People want the physical DVDs, but I actually have them as video online. You just once you pay for it, you get a login and you can see the videos immediately online. But for whatever reason, people want me to also ship them the DVDs. I use this company also online, where I uploaded the content, and I uploaded a cover, and I uploaded all of the graphics, and they print it for me and they ship it off for me. I was doing it here in my office for quite a long time. I had these blank DVDs, and I have a special DVD copier that makes 3 copies at a time. That's as big as I could get, because I actually had my father carry it over in a suitcase from the States when he came to visit me here once. And people were complaining about the shipping times, and they were returning it to Jerusalem was a pain in the butt. So, Baruch Hashem, thank God, eventually I found this company. Trepstar.com is actually the site that I use, and they produce the DVDs for me. So that was actually a good thing, Income Israel, and it's still making money. Then after the startup fell through, I decided to start this site called FindAJobAlready.com. And now we're already in 2008. I think I came up with the idea in 2007. And I'm getting much more sophisticated in my businesses here. This was based on the concept of plentyoffish.com, which, if you don't know, take a look at it. It's pretty unbelievable. The guy makes over $10 million a year from AdSense ads. And I would love to talk with him, by the way. If anybody knows Marcus Freund, I think is his name, please drop me an email and help me get in touch with him. This just blew me away. This guy had this really unflattering looking dating site, and he was making $10 million a year from AdSense ads. And so I read every blog entry that he wrote, and one of the things he said is, I would be making twice the amount of money had I started, it's a free dating site, plentyoffish.com. So he said, if I had started a free job board, I would be making twice the amount of money. And I said, that's it. I'm starting a free job board. And that's findajobalready.com. It's not so easy to find a domain name in 2008, so I was aiming for a keyword, find a job, and then added the already to kind of make it sound humorous. And this was actually a fantastic business until Penguin and Panda killed it. it was making well over $10,000 a month in 2012, which is not so long ago. It was about a year ago, a little more than a year ago, that it peaked. And I pretty much became an SEO expert. It's kind of hard to define what an expert is, but within the framework of what existed at the time, meaning being able to do SEO before Panda and Penguin, I was really good at it. And with my outsourcing skills, I had hired over 20 people that were doing SEO work for me, and I was building like crazy. I was spending not so much money. I was probably spending maybe $1,000, $2,000 a month, but these people were working like nutcases for me. And the site just kept getting ranked for amazing keywords. For example, part-time jobs, where the best was Craigslist. I was actually ranked number 3 for the keyword Craigslist. And this brought in so much money. It just brought in traffic. People were clicking on the AdSense ads. I had backfill jobs from other sites like Indeed. I was making a lot of money from posting jobs from Indeed.com. And people would click on the ads, they click on the jobs, and I would get paid. And it was an amazing business because I didn't have to do anything once it was set up. It took me a year and a half to get the site up and running properly, bug-free, pretty much bug-free. And people stopped complaining, and then the money just started pouring in. And I peaked at about, I'd say 250,000 people a month when I was making that $10,000, which is not that much money considering when you have 250,000 people on the site. If it was still doing so well, I would know how to build it out from at this point. But I wasn't sure what to do back then. And now I'm getting about 10,000 people a month, and it's not making very much money at all. It does pay for itself. It does pay for my server, but that's about it. And I decided just to move on. I did spend money. I spent about $5,000 trying to recover after Penguin and Panda, but it just was impossible. I had a penalty slapped on the site. I wasn't de-indexed, but I did have a penalty on the site, and I got all of the unnatural links and other love letters from Google, and it just got too frustrating for me. So right now it's still up and running. I've got findthejobready.com, findthejobready.ca, and findthejobready.co.uk, and people are using it, but I'm not sure exactly what to do with it at this point. That's kind of one of the reasons that I'm doing the show here. I'm looking forward to talking with people and saying, okay, I've got these businesses. They're not doing what they used to do. How do I revive them, or what should I do with them now? Hang on a second. Just going to drink a little bit of water. Trackback Collector. This is really a stroll down memory lane. Trackback Collector, I was doing SEO work for Find a Job Already, and I was reading about trackback links, and I was starting to collect all these trackback links. I would hire somebody to sit there, go through the search results, and collect the links. And then I realized, why don't I just make some software? And the software will collect the links. You put in a keyword, it'll go through Google, it'll pull out, extract all of the trackback links. Then all you have to do is copy it and paste it into WordPress. Boom, you've got an automated trackback software. So this I started around 2010 and was part of the SEO effort. But it turned out that trackback links were not really such a good way to get links back to your site. Still, I had created sorry. I had created the software, and this is kind of what I'm discovering, that stuff like this does better than the actual reason that I created the software. So I made the software for myself, and then I started selling the software, and I sold over 1,000 copies of the software. I sold it for $97 a piece. There's still a lot of copies out there. Most people, like most software that exists, they simply don't use it. They set it up, they buy it, they don't use it. Every now and then somebody writes me. There are constant changes with Google. And as a result of the changes in Google, Yahoo, and Bing, the 3 search engines that the software searches, I constantly have to update the software. And I'm the type of person that doesn't want to have to be dealing with this all the time, especially when I've got all these different things going on, all these different businesses going on, and of course the kids at home and everything going on in my life. So I stopped selling it recently, like a couple months ago. I just took down the buy button. The site is totally up. I paid, by the way, John Chow, if you haven't gone to his site, johnchow.com, somebody else that I'm hopefully going to interview. I paid him $500 to write me a review, and I'm pretty sure that review was well worth the $500. It was a neutral review. I wasn't so happy with the review, and of course there was a link back to TrackBack Collector, but I decided I'm taking his picture and I'm taking his recommendation, and I'm going to make the absolute most of it. So if you go to trackbackcollector.com, you're going to see my John Chow endorsement for the product. Around 2011, I decided to go back to affiliate marketing because I bought this product on the Warrior Forum. If you don't know the Warrior Forum, warriorforum.com, a phenomenal place. We can talk a lot about the Warrior Forum. I'm sure that we will in future podcasts. So I just came across this product by this guy, Paul Prisick. I have no idea who he is. I haven't bought any products from him since. I think it was one of his first products on the forum. It sold for $9, and he said, I'm going to show you something like, I'm going to show you how I make $20,000 a month with affiliate marketing. And I have to say, the method actually worked. I set up a bunch of affiliate sites. I sent some SEO traffic to it. And from that $9, I made well over $10,000. And I still have a few of the sites up. I took some of them down. And they're still making money, which is unbelievable. I have one of them that's still making well over $500 a month. And it's making a bit more since I got into Facebook marketing. So after I bought this product on the Warrior Forum, I decided I was going to start creating my own products for the Warrior Forum. Here I had this course that I had given, and I have all this material, and I've been selling these DVDs. So I decided to take one... Hey, but we missed a little thing over here. Okay. I decided to take one aspect of the course, which is the viral video. And I took making viral videos, turned it into a course called Viral Video Factory that sold over 500 copies on the Warrior Forum. This is something that I'll be talking about hopefully in future podcasts, and there'll of course be a link to Viral Video Factory. Basically, I came up with a method of creating repeatable viral videos just by looking at what was working and filtering out all of the flukes, like Charlie bit my finger. Then I decided to put up another product on the Warrior Forum, which was a sales course that was based on the Dale Carnegie sales method, where I was the top salesman. This is one of my mistakes, I spent probably 3 months, almost full-time, trying to take an 8-week course and narrow it down to 1 hour. And I did it, but nobody bought it. I sold 3 copies. And that was a big lesson for me. Something that I'm still working on learning. Not to spend so much time creating content, and to really know your market before you create the content. I was guessing. I was creating products and I was throwing them out there. The next thing I did was create a plugin for WordPress for schema.org. If you're not familiar with it, it's those little stars that you see in the search results. So I created a plugin for WordPress that would automate it. It would pull in reviews from Amazon and post the reviews on your WordPress blog and do all the schema formatting for you. So that also, unfortunately, was a flop. And I realized that regarding the Warrior Forum, for the most part, you need to have a big affiliate army behind you in order to be successful. On a lot of these affiliate sites, that's one of the big secrets. That's something that we're going to talk about, God willing, in a future podcast about building your affiliate army, basically. Okay, so from the Warrior Forum, I decided to get into Facebook marketing. And that's when I started Facebook Marketing Breakthrough. This is definitely a recent business that I'm working on. And I'm very happy to say that it's a success. This is a totally new thing for me. What I did is I interviewed 11 experts in Facebook marketing. And some of them are really big names. For example, Gary Vaynerchuk, which is an interview that I'm actually still waiting to do, but we have a date set. And Perry Marshall, Brian Carter, some very big names in the field. I have friends over here, friends in internet marketing, they say to me, "Did you really interview Perry Marshall? How did you get that interview?" And I said to them, I just asked him. I had to fill out some forms. They vetted me. They wanted to make sure that I'm the real thing. But simply, I asked the guy. And that's one of the big secrets, right? They say if you want to win the lottery, you got to buy a ticket. You want to interview Perry Marshall, you got to ask him. He was a very, very nice guy. And it was a good interview. So I contacted 64 people, and 11 of them agreed to let me interview them. There was a 12th. There were actually a few more that agreed, but then they changed their mind, or they never actually showed up for the interview, which was not nice. This was inspired by the Winter of Wellness. You can go to the winterofwellness.com. I felt like Winter of Wellness was overkill. They spend about 3 months doing interviews with experts on spiritual healing and healthy eating and new age stuff like that. And I decided I'm going to take that concept and put it towards Facebook marketing. So with these interviews, I really knew nothing about Facebook marketing before I started. I did do a little bit of Facebook marketing, but these interviews totally changed my understanding. And I've been very into Facebook marketing since then. One of the big problems with that business was that people did not want to be interviewed. Most of the people I contacted, either they said to me, well, thank you for contacting me, but no thank you. Or many of them asked for money. Like one guy asked for $12,000 to be interviewed. Another asked for $7,500 to be interviewed. I told them, listen, you'll have a chance to promote your product. You can promote your book. You can promote anything you want. I'm going to have an email list, and I'll be happy to email your future products, your past products, anything I can do to help you, but I'm not paying to interview anyone. And unfortunately, there were some big names that would have agreed, but I wasn't going to spend $12,000. There was also one woman that wanted $500, and even $500, I decided as a matter of principle, I'm giving the information away for free, and I'm not paying anybody for the interviews. Anyhow, that leads us to the Better Parenting Show and Summit, which I'm working on with my wife. And this is based along the same lines that we're interviewing experts. Really, it's my wife that's interviewing the experts. Having 7 kids, my wife is definitely qualified as an expert parent, but she's not just a good parent. She actually is an academic, and she spends a lot of time reading books and learning this stuff. And so we're doing the same thing. We're interviewing parenting experts, and we're creating an entire business around parenting and parenting education and parenting products. And then all of this leads into where we are right now, the Make Money Online show, which is my goal is to basically continue my education, to speak with people, and to really get the most out of them regarding making money. So, for example, I spoke with Perry Marshall about marketing on Facebook, and if I were interviewing him for the Make Money Online show, which is something that I hope to be doing in the future, God willing, I'll say to him, instead of how do you market on Facebook, I'm going to say, how do you make money? So I can share with you right now, how do you make money? I'll tell you, the easy way to make money is always filling someone's pain, is addressing the pain. And this is really simple. You have a toothache. You'll be willing to live with it for a little while, but when the pain gets bad enough, you'll do anything to get that pain taken care of. And everyone has pain. So you might have pain that you want that Ferrari. You might have pain that you want a new house or new clothes. You might have pain that you want to be an expert musician or an artist, or whatever it is in your life. There's always some level of pain. Some of the pain can be addressed easily. You're hungry, you go get a piece of pizza. Some of the pain can be more sophisticated, like you need to make money, and I'm going to teach you how. But that's the bottom line. Everybody is addressing some type of pain, and they're providing a service, either a product or a service, and that's the reason that people are handing their money over. You'll see this in my talk on the science of getting rich. I'm going to put a link on the site and give you free access to that once you join the mailing list. Anyhow, I appreciate you making it this far. And before I finish, one of the things that I'm going to ask all of the people that I interview is to leave us with an inspirational quote. So I'm going to leave you with an inspirational quote. It's never too late to be the person that you might have been. It's one of my favorite quotes by George Eliot. And George Eliot was actually a woman that was writing as a man. Says a lot for the times that she lived in and the times that we live in now. It's never too late to be the person that you might have been. You know, some people, they live a life of regret. They say, I should have done this, I could have been that. I'm a type of person that lives a life of no regret. I wouldn't do something like violate the terms of my marriage, for example. That's not what I call living a life of regret or not regret. You know, some people, they want to have relations with every other person that they see. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm saying that if there's something that you want to do in your life that's not going to hurt other people, that's something that's good for you, do it. For example, I wanted to live in Jerusalem. It was a dream of mine for many years, and I moved here almost 20 years ago. And I wanted to lead the davening in my shul. I wanted to be the prayer leader, which means singing and standing in front of a group of people. And it's been a very challenging thing. You basically stand up there and you raise your hands in the sky, and you're singing, and you're practically naked. You know, you're dressed, but you're exposing yourself in a way that makes you feel like everybody can see you. And but it's something I always wanted to do. I always wanted to learn ceramics. I always wanted to know how to cook and to eat good food. And the wife that I married, this was a beautiful, beautiful woman. And I just saw her from a distance, and I decided I'm going to ask this woman out. If I hadn't asked her out, I probably wouldn't be married to her today. So it's never too late. All those things that you wanted to do in life, you can still do them. Thank you. I look forward to our next talk together.